We're live.
I don't have a bottle, but here's my coffee mug.
How was that one?
Mine too.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us again on a Wednesday. What a beautiful morning. What a beautiful weather we have here in the Carolinas, Charlotte, and all the areas around it. We are live with Coffee and Pan Dulce, so go grab your cup of coffee, your whatever you want to drink, because we got some great guests out here. Come on. What's up, Chris?
Yeah, welcome everyone to Coffee and Pan Dulce. I'm Christian Cano, one of your co-hosts, along with Mama Ruth. Jeff Scott's on hiatus until after the election, plus our other wonderful guest as well. Today is October 21st. It is one more week. We got 13 days to vote. If you have not voted, I believe that's correct until the general election day. But here in North Carolina, early voting is on, and it's going on this week and then also next week. So thank you for joining us on Facebook Live, but also those who join us on YouTube and Facebook later on as well. That's a mouthful. So we are having gorgeous weather here, and it's supposed to cool down a little bit, I think, this weekend. I'm not sure what the weather is like. So as we always do on Coffee and Pan Dulce, let's go around and introduce everyone. We have a great panel of guests here. If you're looking at your Brady Bunch screen, which I am not, but I can in just a second. Do you know Mama Ruth, who is, let's see. It looks like we've got Mama Ruth, Stephen, Monica, Barb, and then Joel Odom. So if you'll introduce yourself and tell your imaginary button. So Mama Ruth, you go first.
Well, I don't like this little part every week because it's very saddened what's going on around our city. My imaginary, this is Ruth Perez. I'm a community advocate and I'm a co-host for Coffee and Pan Dulce, plus other boards that I join throughout the city. But my imaginary button always and will always be gun sense reform. We just lost 2 more lives this past Monday in front of their child, and that's not acceptable. That has to stop. We have to do something about that. And my second imaginary button, since I don't have one right now, it's Medicare for all. We need to make that change. We need to go out and vote, and we need to deserve better for our families, for our health, for our future. Next.
I'm Stephen DiFiore. I'm the Libertarian Party's candidate for governor this year in 2020. I am a local party member and a political activist. My not so imaginary button today is my Are You Tri-Curious button. These were made for Charlotte Pride a couple years ago, an event I very much look forward to next year. And it's a play on words. There are 3 political parties at minimum. In North Carolina, there's actually 5. And so if you are not happy with the 2 choices that the corrupt duopoly gives you, there are other ways to show your support and voice your dissatisfaction with the way things are going. And November 3rd, get out there and vote. It's fun, wear a mask, social distance, all that fun stuff. But I tell you, you can't make a difference. Politics is made by those who show up, right? So if you show up, you vote, you get your word out there, and you can see all the lovely signs. You might even see a few of mine.
Go ahead, Monica.
Hi, my name is Monica Parrilla. I'm the founder of AJAS Philadelphia, which is empowering Latino leaders and advocates and strategists. I guess my button right now, my biggest button is actually going out to vote. So in Philly, it's disheartening that 16,000 mail-in ballots were mailed out to the voters, and we're still missing 12,000. So, and election day is like in a couple of days. So my button today is get out there and vote, man.
Go ahead, Barbara.
I'm Barbara Bacon. I'm a healthcare advocate here in South Charlotte, and I am actually helping people get to the polls. People are actually asking me to drive them. I'm a little afraid for them because they're mostly seniors, but they're afraid to put it in the mail. And they don't want to wait till next week because it's going to be colder. So they want to do it now. So I'm going to do that for them. And my other imaginary button would be Medicare for all. Hey, Joel.
All right. I'm Joel Odom. I am a community advocate here in Charlotte. I am also a political, how do you say, activist. I am also an activist in Charlotte. I'm a Charlotte native, and Charlotte's my home. And if I had an imaginary button, it would be Black Lives Matter, Medicare for all, and vote, baby, vote.
Hey, your hoodie that you had that last time was a big hit. I like that Vote Baby Vote hoodie. I'm Christian County, one of your co-hosts. Once again, my buttons are always Medicare for all. This way, trust women. I'm pro-life, but I believe that we should trust women with decisions they make for their body. Also, Black Lives Matters as well. Baby Trump Pinata has been visiting us as well. And if you look at him, he's supporting Medicare for all. He's got his mask on, he's trying to keep on. He's got Cynthia Walls for Congress and also Moms Demand Action as well. Also, he carries a copy of the Constitution everywhere he goes. So today, before we start, let's salute to Coffee and Pan Dulce. If you have your coffee or whatever you're drinking, salute to your neighbors. Ching, 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 salute. And we want to thank our Pan Dulce sponsor, Manolo's Bakery on Central Avenue. It's locally owned. Everything is made from the loving hands of immigrant hands. This is Coffee and Pan Dulce. This is the concha, my favorites. Barbara, I'm sorry I ate yours this morning. So,
My pleasure.
I was hungry.
Did I see pumpkin there?
Yes, yeah, there's they all kinds of wonderful stuff. So listen, we want to talk about Latinas. And everyone can kind of go around and kind of tell us Latinas in America. I know everyone's family and everyone's culture, they have different dynamics, and so to speak. But I can say, and everyone knows, I come from a very large Latinx, Hispanic Tejano family, I guess, whatever term you want to use, because most of my family lives back in Texas. And I can say the women run our family. I mean, there is no debate. The women, my grandfather was the figurehead. No decision was made unless my Mama Rosie, who's my grandmother, unless she agreed to it. And that's just the way it is. They had 11 kids. I have nine tias and 3 tios. All the tias make the decisions, what happens, what colleges we go to, all of those. That's just kind of the way it worked in my family. And I was very, very fortunate. I was raised by a single dad, 4 kids raised by a single dad, and my tias basically raised us. They were the village that raised us, made sure we ate, made sure we did our homework, all those kind of things. So I'm very, very fortunate. So I know that that's just my experience. So I've always grown up knowing that in my experiences, that in our view, the women run our families. However, those who are not in my family and who have visited my family, especially my spouse, the first thing he noticed was how the men in my family were put on pedestals. And so he said, it's interesting whenever y'all have whenever someone's having a boy, it's like, oh, wonderful. It's like he felt like the boys are treasured more. See, I never felt that. I always felt that the women were treasured more, but apparently, I don't know, it's just a different dynamic. So with my family, so I want to talk about Latinas. And the reason I'm saying that is because Latinas and women in general, if they could take over this country, man, we'd have the best country in the world. I mean, I say that because everything they have to go through, just to be a woman, but just the patience they learn and the tolerance and the negotiating skills they have, it's just something that I can't comprehend. I'd be like, shut up, kids. So I'm going to go around, and Stephen, you can tell me what you think, and Joel, whatever, but tell us, what do you think about Latinas? And then we want to talk about their impact in this election and moving forward. So who wants to go?
So as I have a beautiful Mexican woman glowering at me right now, I want to say that
She's looking at you. You're
that-
like this.
that Latinas are amazing, especially beautiful Mexican women.
Woo!
So I'm very lucky in that sense. They do rule us. They wear the pants or the pantsuits, whatever, doesn't matter. Mariana will not be participating in this election because she's not an American citizen. So she won't have an effect. But when she does vote, she votes Partido Acción Nacional. And if I had to vote for a Mexican party, I'd probably vote for them. But, you know, I'm an American, so I vote for the LP. So there you go. Something that you said just a second ago, Christian, about men putting up on pedestals. One of the things that Mariana complains about a lot about Mexico, and one of the things she doesn't like about it, but she likes the United States because of its absence, is something called machismo culture. So there's something called machismo culture in Mexico and maybe other Hispanic countries. I don't really know. But it's not really a thing in the United States, not really. And she's like, she does not appreciate machismo culture, and she likes the fact that it's not really a thing in the US. And, you know, from her description of it, yeah, it seems pretty backward, but, you know, who am I to judge? But yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
You know what? She's right about the machismo. I do agree with it. Being the only woman in my house with 7 brothers and just being myself, I still have that voice, that power voice. And I never understood why my brothers will count on my opinion than between their opinions. I mean, my oldest brother, he's 53, and he still calls and asks for advice or what do you think, or if we should do things like that. I guess they understand that they cannot live without the female role. And we as women, I feel like we are the ones that have placed them in such a machismo stage. Me talking about my husband, my sons, y'all know I have only boys at home. So
You got 5 boys.
yeah, so it's like they do, and it's my word. Even though they might make it seem out there like they're the men's, but at the end of the night, it's my word. It's what I want, and this is how I want it. I don't make it seem, because we also have that special sense, little tick where we don't make it too obvious that we have the power. I don't know y'all, but I don't. I make it seem like, oh no, you're right. Yes, but I should suggest y'all should do it this way and it'll come out better. So I don't know, it's magic touch or something. What do you think about, Monica? Where are you from?
You are absolutely right. I'm from Puerto Rico. So we had the right to vote, right? Because I moved here in 1993. You're absolutely right, though. I feel like I have 4 boys and 2 girls. And the dynamics in our family is where, yes, we do give a lot of authority to the male figures in our family. But to be honest, la cortina de verdad is we hold the confirmation. So we give them, like, they'll make the decision and they'll look back, ¿verdad que sí? And then you'll be like, yeah, of course. And if you think it's a bad idea as a woman, we'll be like, So we kind of control the sway of the house. That's just how it works. That's how.
Well, that's funny.
What do you think, Barb?
Well, I'm this poor little white girl from Illinois, and I grew up in a really large Catholic family. I have like 25 cousins, and there were 6 siblings in my family. And the 3 oldest aunts and uncles all had 6. So there was immediately 18. Wow. And my grandmother ruled the roost. I didn't even think my grandfather talked until I got a little bit older, because I'd sit by him and we'd watch either the football games or the baseball games. But my grandmother ruled the roost, and nothing happened unless she said it was so, until I got older, and then I got defiant. But yep, there was no doubt about it. So Christian, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And you know what, I forgot to mention, but I mean, if we see throughout the centuries, we've had great women around the world that ruled big time. Here in the United States, we have bunch of Latinas that are succeeding up in the films, artists, singers, the best ones. You know, we have Sofia Vergara, we have Jennifer Lopez, we have so many that are made that crossover, and they're actually doing much better as Latinas. That's their pride, and we feel pride for them too, because you know they're representing all of us. That you can do whatever you want, wherever. Because you know you mentioned something in Mexico, or Steven said in Mexico the machismo, that could be there, that could stay here in the United States, that could be brought into here, but it's up to us, the Latinas, how we handle and how we outcome our power.
Well, I do know, I don't know the exact data, but I believe young Latinas, percentage-wise, have the highest, they're the highest percentages in college. I'm not exactly sure how that data worked. There was data that came out about a year ago. So Joel, tell us what you think, or do you want to?
Okay, I'm unmuted. All right. Well, so in my family's been here for a long time. On my dad's side, they've been in Charlotte for over 130 years. And my great grandmother Vera, who came down from Lexington Park, Maryland, she came down in Charlotte when they purchased the Excelsior Club on Beatties-Ford in like 1968, helped purchase it. And so my mother passed away when I was 8, but I saw the dynamic just growing up around strong women. You know, I was fortunate enough. I might have lost my mom, but I had 2 great grandmothers and 2 regular grandmothers, and you cannot believe that I would eat all the time. There would be food all the time, and it's just bad. I just recently lost a lot of weight, just from exercising and dieting. I was pushing 278 pounds. I was 278
Oh my
pounds.
God, Joe, good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
All that good
But
eating.
see, and yeah, pig's feet, and it's just a lot of food, a lot of good food. And so, you know, just seeing from my great grandmother, Inez Stevenson, how she was a birth mother and how she's just very strong. She raised 13 kids and just all she was always there for my grandfather. They both passed away in 2018, a month apart from one another. She died in November. He passed away December 31st. And you know, that dynamic of marriage, of just being together for over 74 years, I just saw something that a lot of people really weren't fortunate enough to see, which is like just the power of marriage. Even with my great grandma Vera, she got a divorce from my grandfather, but you know he wanted her back. She said she ain't getting married. She said, "I ain't fooling with you, Clarence. Leave me alone." And I said, "All right." I was like, "All right, all right." He said, "My grandma won't do right." I said, "Whatever." I said, "Whatever," but I've always was blessed and fortunate enough to have strong women in my life. My mom was a fighter. She did everything. And just thinking about if she was alive today, just to see where I would be. You know, I ran for mayor in 2019, but if my mom was here and alive, I would just hate to see what would happen because she would just be on it. And, you know, that's just something that I respect, because in my family, you know, a lot of the men, you know, we don't cook. You know, my grandparents didn't allow me to like in the kitchen and cook. That was always, you know, the role of the women in my
That's called
family.
machismo.
But but you know, at the same time, I've always respected, I don't hate. I'm honest. I say I don't cook. I come from a very traditional family. They're religious and everything. So, I respect it. And sometimes it's good to have a dynamic that works because,
Yeah, and
the women in my family, they want,
yeah. No, that's interesting you say that, Joel, because I mean, that is the difference, I think. I don't know if it's a culturally thing or whatever, but in my family, all we were taught, like the men, we were taught to cook.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I was raised by a single dad, so I had no choice. I had to learn how to cook. My sister and I had to learn how to cook, or we cooked for my brothers who were much younger than us. But it all, like, even today we have family weekly Sunday calls, and it's a cooking lesson. One of my aunts will show us how to cook one of their dishes, so their dishes will continue on forever. Whether it's mole, chicken mole, or enchiladas, or tortillas, or whatever whatever we ask them to cook, they will cook those things. And so it's interesting you say that, but what I'm hearing here, and this is why I think this is such an important topic, it amazes me, all of us, regardless of where you came from, what silo, what lenses you look at the American life, women play such an important role in our lives, and they are very powerful in our lives. It still dumbfounds me why we have not passed the Equal Rights Amendment. It still dumbfounds me why we are still having conversations where Senator Kamala Harris is treated differently than, let's say, a male vice president individual. So what do you think, and let's go around, let's try to keep it 30 seconds or less. Why do you think we still have this, if we're all acknowledging that women are so important to us, but yet somehow that vanishes? So Monica, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, absolutely, Christian. I think that it's because of equal representation. So right now, there's not a lot of Latinas that, let's just say there's not a lot of politicians that look like me, that sound like me, that have the same culture as me. And if we want to change that, and we want laws to be written and put in place, and bills put in place to represent us, well, we need those congresistas, we need representatives, we need senators, we need Latinas. That's why they should absolutely run.
Yeah, and I'll speak to that too. As a libertarian, we don't really have representation at the federal level. I mean, Justin Amash is a representative in the House of Representatives, and he's a party member. And having him put forth ideas that our party's behind, things like qualified immunity reform, for example, I really like. There are, it's too bad the Democrats and Republicans have no appetite to actually change the system for the better. Then you have some Republicans who are, not so bad on this. The guy from Tennessee, I think. I'm having trouble remembering his name. Massey, I think his name is. That's right. He's kind of libertarian leaning. And then there's a representative from a Democrat fella from the Portland area. And he's also like involved in reforms to, say, qualified immunity, criminal justice reform. So it's nice to see that. But yeah, having an actual representative for your ideas and at the federal level is really nice. It's just sad that he's the only one. But it is what it is. Speaking to the Equal Rights Amendment, I have a suspicion that one of the reasons why the Equal Rights Amendment hasn't passed is because the way it's written, it would actually destroy the alimony system that we have in this country. Now, I'm not necessarily opposed to that because I'm an egalitarian. I think we should be treated equally and evenly no matter what. But the way that amendment is written, it would completely upend the entire, not only the alimony system, but the family law system that we have in this country. And there are a lot of people who make a lot of money on that. And so, anything that upends the apple cart has a higher barrier to entry, whether it's good or bad. So that's just one of my suspicions as to why it hasn't passed.
Well, I think if anyone has watched the documentary, I don't know if it's on Netflix or Amazon or HBO, it is about the Equal Rights Amendment somewhat. And the lady from the Christian group, she was a Catholic, she helped fight it. I forgot her name. She was a very big ally for Ronald Reagan and so forth. And that was one of the arguments that they made to women at the time was, do you want that taken away? Do you want to be drafted into the war? Do you want those? So at that time, that was the argument. It's a great documentary to watch. But does anyone else want to add why they think that?
You got to keep in mind also, a lot of our judges, our Supreme Court judges, are women's representations. They're representing us as well. I guess they're having a lack of seeing the whole view, because if they would also do something about doing the equal rights. They would also be I guess an affiliator or a protester or trying to look up for any open window to allow for that to be passed. But no one has done it up in a federal level side. So I don't know what's going on with them, but we need to, I guess, send our voices out there. Maybe start sending emails, not just in a local way, but in a higher level.
Barb, you want to add anything?
Well,
or
I guess because I'm so much older than all of you,
not that much.
a lot. You'd be surprised, but anyway,
Well, like maybe 5-10 years, maybe at most.
10.
Probably on yours. Mine will be like 20.
Okay, I'm not going to react to that badly. They made me lose my train of thought. Being involved on the perimeter, like I was in politics, really opened my eyes to all the backdoor things that go on. Now, I grew up in Illinois, so certainly the corrupt machine in Chicago has always been a topic, but I never knew that it was down to the level of local politics and kind of goes up. For some reason, I was naive to think that it was all just state and federal, and it's not. But I think that the root cause is older white men have been in power for so long, and they're very powerful. They have roots everywhere. And where I see things falling apart now is they've got no pots of money left that they can borrow from to negotiate. And now when it comes to giving up their real personal values, it's just not going to happen. So I think it's going to take a while for that to happen, because it's got to be a whole new culture. Like Ruth said, women have got to start being more proactive. I hope that Joe Biden wins, and with Kamala Harris being there, maybe we're starting to get some of that mechanics that we'll need to do that. But I just think it's going to take a long time.
Hey, Joel, you want to jump in?
Yes, I totally agree with Barbara. The thing is, it's not really, Latino men and black men or Asian men, or, well, I can't speak on Asian men, I don't know. But from the standpoint from which I see, I know that it's not black man really holding back the black woman or any real woman on that fact, because you might have instance of jealousy or something like that, but when you look at the number of disparities, like for the African American community, the unemployment rate is like 35% nationally. And so you have a lot where 40% of the men are in prison, if not almost 50%, or have been in prison, federal prison. And then you have a lot of times when they can't vote and stuff like that. So you have it where black men are put in a position where we can't take the lead, because if you're written in an apartment and you're a convicted felon, the odds are you can't get. But at the same point, it's like for a Latina woman or a black woman, if you, like right now, what we're facing is evictions. If you have an eviction on your history, that right there is just as bad as a felony for a Black man. So you see the disparities and you see what dynamics that's happening. This country has the possibility, the perspective to go so far ahead with the different cultures and nationalities that we have, but we have to get rid of this pedigree of white man dominance.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Because yeah,
Monica,
this-
you want to jump in? I'm sorry, Joel.
To Joel's thought there, he's very right, actually. So the reason why I think there's not a fair representation of Latina and like pushing the Latina power type of thing is because culturally, we're the caretakers of the families. So when you look at the dynamic, yes, most of us work, but then we come home and we do the mommy thing where we have to take the kids back, check the homework, get homework, get dinner done, clean the kitchen, put the bed. We have that role. So for example, right now, if I wanted to run for office, I say, okay, public servitude and having those kind of positions, you have to make those sacrifices. But why should we have to? Well, because culturally we're Latina and that's what we're taught to do. Take care of the family because family comes first. Where we see, so Barbara's issue was where the white men that are in power don't have to make those sacrifices. Well, why isn't it fair?
You hit the nail right on the head, and I was writing that down when Joel and Barbara were saying something, because I just think it's so interesting that currently in many states, when they are trying to win the swing voter or the moderate voter, which as a Democrat, many Democrats worry so much about that small percentage of voters, and that the face of that person is generally a white suburban woman. They're so concerned about winning 5 white or suburban women that they completely forget all of the other, their base, all of the Latina women, all of the Black women, all the Black men, all the Latino men, all of the other individuals. And they represent such a small percentage when in fact we know that Black women vote at very high percentages. We know that Latino women are so influential in their whole families. If you can convince a Latina woman, you've convinced the husband and all the kids and the grandfather and everyone else. You may have convinced 10 people just with convincing that one person. We also know that white women in America tend to vote about 51 to 52% Republican. So even if you went after the white woman, you're going to lose 49% of 51% of them anyway. And so I always thought it was interesting, just from a political standpoint, the people that make those decisions don't have a lot of, they're disconnected with the reality I think in many families. But to your point about the older white man, I completely agree with you. In this state, in North Carolina, I've said this all the time, when it's a white man running, especially the Democrats, it's like, yay, wonderful. This is, when it's not a white man running, when it's a woman or a person of color, it's like, good luck, good luck. And it is very difficult for a non-white man to run for a higher office outside of the local elections here, because they just don't see them. It's this mentality that has to be broken here in North Carolina. But
you have to look at Harvey Gantt when he ran for governor of North Carolina. He was able to win mayor, but look at when he ran for governor. He saw the difference. He saw the difference in where how African Americans are in usually major cities, wherever you'll find, like, even if you go on CNN, they do the maps of Democrats and Republicans. Usually when you see a big number of Democrats, that's usually where the African American majority population live. They're usually in that area. In North Carolina, the Democrat side, really, Mecklenburg County, Raleigh, and I would push into say maybe Greensboro-ish, but when you start getting to these rural areas, you're facing a lot of suburban white men and white women. And when Harvey Gantt ran for governor, when he went to, I think it was Elizabethtown or another city in North Carolina, out of the population, one person went to see him. Only one white man. I met the man, and he had a newspaper. It was terrible.
Question, Joel. How long ago was it that Harvey Gantt ran for governor? Do you know? Was that what, 20 years?
I think it was like in the 80s.
Okay. So this is my point. That was 20, 30 years or almost 40 years ago. I gotta do my math here. It's the same. So
I would disagree, actually.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So we've been talking about, you know, the power held by older white men and how local level is so like super important and all that. And I had to look it up real quick just to make sure I remembered the numbers, because I'll be honest, I don't honestly like file away ethnicities in my head very often. But the Charlotte City Council, for example, is an 11-member city council, has 3 white men on it.
Yep.
4 Caucasian human beings, right? So, you know, 3 white men, 1 white woman. It's a minority, if you want to use that term, city council. And my generation, the millennial generation, maybe even Joel's generation, you know, we don't necessarily look at a guy with dark complexion or a girl with dark complexion or whatever and say, that's something that's important to me. We go, what's your ideas? And when you have that mindset, you get a makeup like city council that is, you know, ethnically diverse and gender diverse, but it's that aspect of it, those arbitrary characteristics of those individuals for us are like incidental things, and we really care about like what you have to say and what you have to offer. And that viewpoint is growing, right? Because the older generation that really cares about, you know, whether or not you can sunburn at the beach, they're getting older and they're leaving, to use a nice term. And the people coming up are more concerned about things that, in my opinion, actually matter. And like some of these problems are slowly worming their way out of our society. And I think that's a good thing. You know, if we had a guy like, you know, we talked about Harvey Gantt. You know, I've never actually had the chance to meet Mr. Gantt, although that would be amazing. But if you had, like, say, a charismatic, like Charlotte City Council politician, like James Smudgy Mitchell, right? He's like the most charismatic guy. I don't think he would ever want to run for governor, but let's say a guy like him did. Man, I think he'd like that kind of personality. I think he would do really, really well, and like people wouldn't care that he's a black man. I mean, he's just that guy.
Yeah, he wouldn't win.
I mean, he wouldn't win because at the end of the day, hey, look at Charlotte. If you look at the city council in Charlotte, sure, it's minority ran. The city's minority ran by African Americans, but African Americans are not the ones that hold the money. African Americans do not have the money for a lot of the programs that you see in Charlotte. What happens is that a lot of the wealthy people, the people with the old money, they donate the money to like the Foundation for the Carolinas or United Way. And United Way goes and they dangle the keys to some room and they'll say, well, you have to do this and then we'll give you funding for this. But you'll see, city council, I said it the last time, you cannot run a city and make $20,000 and you have an entire family. Look at the dynamics. You're putting people in a position to want to steal and extort stuff. Because Braxton Winston has 4 little girls and he works at the Hornets. So you think about that. He's a city councilman. He's also a cameraman. He got 4 little girls. How can you sustain yourself?
Well, that's a good point. And Stephen, I do agree with you. I do believe that there's a generation that wants to change that. And I do believe, but I do think that currently now, at least in North Carolina, I don't know how it is in Pennsylvania, but I do know that there's this thinking that people of color, you're good enough to be a local leader, But when we get old, when we get at the higher levels, we need more whiter men kind of, that's why you have Josh Stein, Governor Cooper, Cal Cunningham. You have all these only white men running in those positions when they don't represent A, the Democratic Party, and B, they don't really represent the emergence of this state. So yes, Mama.
But on that part, I don't think it's only their fault for running. They feel that passion to run. Now, where are our Latinos? Why can they run? Nobody's stopping them.
But the thing is, they are running. They are running. They don't have the money to get out there so you know about it. It's just like in the primary, there was a black man running. Yeah, there was a black man running for governor, and he was all right. But I didn't know about him until.
So we go back to the Democratic Party or the Republican Party that doesn't, I guess, support them, doesn't open widely the door to them, and only open the door to the white. So we are going back and around, and we end up at the same spot that we started at.
Well, look at
We're making exceptions.
Look at what happened to Jorge. He ran, and the Latinos didn't show up to vote for him. I felt so bad for him that night. I was like, oh my God.
Yep.
What happened? If he doesn't know, certainly I just felt bad. I felt bad for him.
That's my point.
The problem is it goes back to the money.
Yeah. Okay. But Joel, no, I agree with you, Joe. That's my point. That's why I wanted to talk about it. That's why we wanted to talk about this topic. It seems like, and I can just tell you, with my family, the women they're the ones that run. They don't acknowledge and realize how valuable and how powerful they are. And they need to embrace their power, their strength, and they need to pass that on to their kids and say, Mija, you are just as powerful and you're just as strong as your brother or so-and-so. You can be anything you want to be as well. And so I do think that strength hasn't been acknowledged. Somehow we need like Latina Pride Year where we encourage Latinas, you can do anything you want to do. And I know we do in many ways, but it just seems like they have not acknowledged their power that they have in America. So somehow we need to teach our kids in our community, in the Latinx community, the women need to be taught, you are powerful, you are this. And that's the movement I think that we need, because Latinas can be just as powerful a voting bloc as Black women. And that's—
I agree with you, Christian. You've got, in terms of getting out the vote this year, take a look at the powerful Black people that are doing this. You've got Charles Barkley, you've got Shaq, you've got LeBron, you've got Curry, you've got Michael Jordan a little bit. I'm disappointed in him being a Chicago person, and they're on TV and they have ads and they're out there. And this one commercial that cracks me up, Scott, the Shaq and I think it's Charles Barkley, both, yakety guys. And they go, please get out there and vote so we don't have to listen to them anymore. And I just fell off my couch laughing. It's hilarious, but I don't see anybody out there for the Latinos. Why not? I don't get it. And exactly what you said, they have power and you see it rising again on TV, and you guys are so underrepresented.
And at the end, we have to break that curse, because when we see a Latino running for something, like I have Jose here, Jose Santiago, a lot of Latinos, we've talked about it before, they feel like, I guess they rather support an American than a Latino, because they're afraid that they might end up stealing whatever you're carrying. And that's crazy.
But Mama Ruth, don't you think that's a teaching moment that we have to have with our kids, that we are American? Yeah. And we have to take that word away. And maybe not everyone is a North American, but they may be Central American or South American. White people don't have a monopoly on the word America. I mean, we're all Americans, you know,
Right,
and
exactly.
so Monica, I see you wanting to jump in here.
Dying to jump in, really, as Latinas, we need to own it. We need to really own it and not be afraid to own it. And I'll tell you why. There's an amazing story of a Philadelphia councilwoman. She's the only Puerto Rican Latina in all of city council. And she has ran her race, I want to say 5 times, maybe 6. And each time that she ran her candidacy, she was not endorsed or supported by the Democratic Party. So she didn't the ticket, but she's won. Why? She's very strategic. She knows what she's doing. She's an amazing Latina. But what I want to say that when she wins, instead of getting the support that she's earned, because along with that comes, well, she won, yeah, but she doesn't play nice in the sandbox. She's been said that she has to kiss the ring. She said, you know, and there's no need to do that, because if you start off grassroots and you have your target audience and they support you and you follow through with what you say you're going to do, you will win. But you have to own it and not be afraid of what people say about you, where the money is going to come from. Yes, you do follow the money in campaigning, but if you're good, money shouldn't be an issue.
Thank you.
With $10 and you can win with $10 million.
Yep.
If you put yourself out there, you win, and you make a difference. You own that Latina power.
Monica, what you've said, it's almost like you have paraphrased our show for the last 2.5 years. What we have said here on the show is Black and brown people need to stop worrying about kissing the ring of white Charlotte. They either love you or they don't.
Thank you.
If you're still in 2020 trying to kiss their ring, then you're losing. You've got to go around them. You've got to go to directly to Black and brown people or marginalized communities, and you have to just get rid of them. And you have to go around them, because Charlotte wants you to do things. They want you to stay in your lane. Well, if you stayed in your lane, it'd be 34 more years before we get a voice.
Generations of misrepresentation. That's it.
So you've got to go around it.
You know what's so funny? In the African American community, when I ran against Vilaus in 2019, you know, just being 20 years old, just running for an office, you cannot imagine the scrutiny that I had to go on, had just fell on me. And it wasn't really, it was a big shock. You know, a lot of white people were so excited for me, and, you know, they helped out with stuff. No lie. They helped me out a lot. But when it came to the African American community, for like, when it comes to like the Enchalant, like the BPC and other organizations, people involved in politics, they were just so hateful.
Yeah.
because it comes down to, you know, it's all right. We want you to vote, but we want you to vote for who we tell you to vote for.
Well,
You know, we want you to be
I know
involved.
that pain.
Yeah,
Yes.
we want you to be involved, but we want you to be involved for what we tell you to do. You know, it's that we want you to do what we tell you to do mentality. Because I've had a woman come up to me and tell me, "Would you run against Dr. King?" I was like, damn, I didn't know it was like that. I was at church and they
I don't think Dr. King, I think he would have more sense than to try to become a politician. He seemed like a more reasonable man than that.
It was terrible.
Yeah. You know what's, a little bit of hope. I know some folks, I spent a lot of time in rural North Carolina. So like I was in Statesville, and you know who I think for the lieutenant governor race is going to win in places like Statesville? Mark Robinson. Now, if you don't know anything about Mark Robinson, he's a conservative, he's a Republican, he's also a black man. And in lily white Statesville, I don't think anybody who's a Mark Robinson voter gives a darn that he doesn't need sunblock. Like, it just doesn't matter. I've heard him speak. I can see the appeal. Like he gets that out there. But
But-
how much support does he have in urban areas?
Well,
Not a lot. I wonder how much is
Because-
partisan and
Well-
groupthink, and how much is about actual ethnic empowerment.
Well, Stephen, there's a very qualified Black woman running for lieutenant governor against him, and
Yes,
Mark
she is.
Robinson is a little cuckoo. If you read what he has said about LGBT people, about
He's conservative, so I mean, I
No,
get it.
Ultra.
there's a difference between being conservative and thinking that I'm a pedophile. I mean, that's not conservative.
Oh
That's-
my God. I hate when people.
Well, you know
like,
that I've never
conservative
heard
for,
that
like,
being said, but if that's the
Yeah.
case, yeah, that's a
Okay.
gross thing to say.
He's
Yeah,
being accused of that, yes.
Yes, and he won't deny it. He won't take it back. But listen, we're running kind of towards the end of the show, but it was great to talk about Latina influence and so forth. And I do hope that one of the reasons that I have tried to really embrace the term Latinx is because we do need to I don't know how to term, and Stephen, maybe you're really good at words. Maybe we can, somehow we've got to de-machismo the words that we use. So when we say voto Latino or whatever the case, that is a masculine term, and there are women. And so that's the reason we use the term Latinx, is to make it a gender neutral kind of term. And so when it is.
Well, not really, because in the Spanish, voto, it's a plural word. So voto is just vote. Latino doesn't make it a difference between a woman or a man in our Spanish language. It means that we are all Latins. So sometimes you might see it different, but in our point of view, and correct me, Monica, I might be wrong or not, but in the voto Latino, we're just in making sure that our Latinos, doesn't matter if they're a woman or man, go out and vote.
Why
Yeah,
don't
and
we
that's an
do-
interesting thing about language, because English
Yeah.
is not a gendered language, but like a
Right.
lot of the romantic languages are. So I can see the appeal of, like, say, anglicizing languages in the United States where English is the predominant language. And I can understand why people would want to do that, like you, and why people are against that, like Mariana.
Yeah.
Latino,
Yes.
Latina. She's like, if it's not in the Royal Spanish Academy Dictionary, it's not a Spanish word. I'm like, okay.
Just tell her that they have revised the Spanish dictionary, because there are new words as well.
All right, well, forget what I just said.
Now, machismo, a woman can be a machista as well. Not only men's, women's are machista also.
Well, from what you're saying about the women in the Latin community, of course they are. If they're that strong-willed and they rule the roost, well, of course they are. But they do it in a whole different way.
And a
than-
sweetie, bless your heart.
Oh, yeah. Oh, good one, Ruth. Good one.
That is so true. So listen, we only have a couple minutes left, and we just start maybe 2 minutes late, but let's, where do we go from here? What do you think? Do you think the Latina vote or the Latinx vote is going to determine this election?
I think it's already determining. If we can see the numbers, we can see a huge difference between 2016 to 2020.
Are they voting? Are they voting? Do we know that?
Oh,
Do
yes.
you know that?
Oh, yes.
I
I wish
really
we had
haven't,
the
I
number
haven't
on
heard it delineated that way.
Oh gosh, we've been having caravans, the coalition being using their own van and taking Latinos to go vote
Okay.
at the Guadalupe church. They've been taking
Okay.
them to different places. So we definitely are making
Okay,
and seeing the
good.
difference.
Good.
I mean, 2 million people have already voted so far for early voting in a
Mhm.
state of only 10 million. Those are some pretty
That's
good numbers.
amazing.
I would like to know, how can we break down who's Latino and who's not that has voted? You know how we can find out?
Exit
Yeah, they
polling.
exit polling, and
Exit polls.
they have data people that
You
can-
know, the Carolinas are being bombarded right now by our candidates. Both parties are arriving today.
Oh
That's
yeah, they
only
want North
started.
Carolina.
So
They want North
I
Carolina.
do, since we're on the topic of Latinas, and I believe Kamala Harris is an honorary Latina, I consider her to be an honorary Latina. It was very interesting. I had someone tell me the other day, I can't vote for Joe Biden because he's not all there and he's just going to die as soon as right after he gets elected. My response was, and it was the first time I came up with a quick response because I've been practicing this. I said, that's fine because I want Camilla as president. So it was like,
What did they say?
no, it was like they were saying, oh, well, I can't vote for Biden because he can't do. It's like, that's not an argument for me. I'm like that. I'm happy to have Camilla as my president. Unlike
That's how we get our first woman president.
That's
Through electoral shenanigans. Yeah, that's a shame.
That was really good, Chris. Now I have a question for Steve. I seen there's a candidate running for president, and if that, of course, if that would ever happen, who will be the vice president?
What, for the Libertarian Party?
Mm-hmm.
Spike Cohen is the VP candidate.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that, so I guess
I've done a few events with him actually in the Charlotte area. And in like in North Carolina, up in Durham and stuff. And I'm going to actually be in I think Louisville.
I saw a post yesterday.
November 1st with Joe Jorgensen, the presidential candidate.
I saw a post yesterday that if we vote for Libertarian Party or the Green Peace or the Constitution one, we're just a waste of the votes.
That was last week's show, girl. Vote shaming. That was last week.
That's what I'm saying. But I saw a post yesterday.
I hear. Oh, all right. So let's go ahead and wrap up.
You get that a lot.
We've had a great conversation. Let's wrap up. Next week's show, once again, and Monica, you're welcome to come back on the show whenever you like on our topics. We're hoping to have the show after the election. Maybe we can bring back some individuals and maybe even the young Latino Trump supporter that we had on the show. Maybe we can bring back that show and maybe call it Let's Come Back Together. I mean, somehow we need to, I don't know if we'll know the results of the show by then, the election by then, but it would be nice for us to have a show where we could all come back to kind of like the way we were a little bit.
We'll know the results because our next show will be November 4th.
That's right. Yeah, but I don't know if we'll find
Pennsylvania.
Okay, yes. So let's go around the Brady Bunch screen. Tell us where you're going to be, and then we will end the show. So looking at the Brady Bunch screen, Mama Ruth.
Before you close, Monica, is your AYA's organization, is it a nationwide or is it only just for Pennsylvania?
Just in Pennsylvania, just in Philly.
Darn it.
Well, please tell us how they can. Yeah, please tell us how they can connect with you or on social media and so forth when we get on. So let's go, Mama Ruth, Stephen, Monica, Barb, and Joel. Tell us where you're going to be.
Okay. Well, my rest of my week, I got a doctor's appointment this week. I'm still doing my research because I'm in the almost outdoor step to go and vote, early voting. So I'm still making some decisions on some of the stuff, which I already made my mind of what I want. But I'm hoping and encouraging everyone that is watching us to go out and vote. It doesn't matter. I asked a question last week. Doesn't matter that I have to vote for every single thing. And I came out to my conclusion and said, you know what? I'm only going to vote for who I know, for what I want, and what I care for. So go out and vote. I want to shout out to Kyle Kirby. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your comments. We didn't have enough time to point them out, Kirby, but we are reading them, and we appreciate your support. And this as well. So we love you. Thank you all. Thank you, Monica. Nice. My pleasure meeting you. And I want some arroz con gandules, so every time I eat that, I'll remember Monica out there.
Yeah.
Next.
Who was next?
You're mute.
Oh, yeah, no, I got it. So I'll be brief. This Friday, Old Mecklenburg Brewery, 6:30 to 9. I have a campaign event for the Libertarian Gubernatorial candidate. It'll be outside, social distancing, mask wearing. So it will be as safe as possible, but it should be a beautiful day. Come on out, hang out, hear our ideas, share a beer with us, and do something fun on Friday. The thing about us as a party, we have a lot of differences of opinion, but at the end of the day, we're all shooting for the same goal. So, even if we have different opinions about the best way to get to the destination, which is a better America or a better North Carolina, we can find some common cause. We can find that bridge and walk over it. And, that is what we are really focused on. So come on out if you don't have anything else to do this Friday. Old Mecklenburg Brewery, 6:30 to 9. And yeah, it should be a fun time. And I'll be there, if that sweetens the pot for you.
Cool. All right, guys. Monica Parrilla, Ellas Philadelphia. And this week, my focus is just making videos on the importance of putting your ballot inside the secrecy envelope, because that's super important. Latinos need to be instructed well in the envelope, and then in the other envelope, and then sign the back. So those are going to be my videos this week on Instagram, and you can follow me on Ellas Philadelphia on Instagram.
This week, I'm driving a few people for early voting, and I'm also helping a few of my neighbors. This is also Medicare. Review what plan you have, make some adjustments. I'm encouraging Medicare Advantage plans because of all the additional benefits that are offered, and trying to sell that, if that's the right word to use. But that's kind of what I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to ignore my front yard. Hey, Joe.
Well, I will be out probably just throughout the rest of the week, working with my friends and some of my teammates on just figuring out different things I can do and we can do to help make Charlotte better, and just helping around with my grandparents, just getting ready for the fall raking. I got my new phone yesterday because I misplaced my other phone. I put it down and someone took it. So that's what I just really been doing. I got my new phone and I just been trying to update and get everything together. But that's what I'll be doing for the rest of the week. And it's just great. It's great. That's it.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much. I actually will be voting today, voting early. Both of us will be going out to vote early, so we're very excited. Don't forget, next week we will act, and I think we're going camping to the mountains again this weekend to see the foliage here in North Carolina. Also, next week it is what Latinx America looks like in 2020. The reason that we want to talk about that is because Hispanic Heritage Month has ended. And if you have not seen the series, the 6-part series on PBS, please take the time to watch it or order it if you'd like to get it on DVD. It really shows the very interesting dynamics and the influence of Latinx individuals in America. We fought in every war since the original war. What is it? Independence? I forgot the name of that war.
The American Revolution.
Yes, the American Revolution. I'm so embarrassed. Yes, the American Revolution. And also, we want to hopefully we can dispel some myths. For an example, the Latinx community has been growing by leaps and bounds here in North Carolina. And what most people don't understand is 60% of them have been moving here from other states. And another large percentage are just people whose families have grown. A very small percentage of those individuals are undocumented or immigrants. And so when people think North Carolina's growth, they just assume it's all the undocumented people moving to, it's not, it's actually Americans, citizens that are moving here. And so we really need to dispel this myth, because I know when I talk to white Charlotte, and sometimes even Black Charlotte, they have this misperception of what the Latinx community actually is and what we look like and what we do. And so that's part of what we have to do in North Carolina, is dispel these myths and explain to people. And a lot of Latinos don't mark Latinx or Hispanic on their citizenship or whatever. They just check white because they don't want to be considered, there's many reasons. It's about a simulation. So next week, I believe we're going to have Dr. B back on, and he will be talking to us about that study that came out that said, is blood type determining whether you have COVID-19? There's some studies that have been coming out, and I think Stephen asked that question like a month or 2 months ago. I don't know if you remember that, Stephen. It may have been you. Yes, and so there's studies coming out about it, and he's going to talk about that study very briefly, Dr. B. So if you're on Zoom, stay on. I want to thank you personally, but we're going to disconnect from Facebook. And this time I'm going to disconnect properly, because last week I think I just shut everybody off. Is that right, Stephen?
Yeah, I felt slighted, but I'll forgive you.
So everyone wave. We'll see you next week on Coffee and Pan Dulce. Bye, y'all.